Inspiration for today's episode of Cinema Sounds and Secrets comes from Lieutenant Bill Kilgore.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning. It smells like victory.
Welcome to Cinema Sounds and Secrets, my podcast on all things film. I'm Janet Doolin-Jones. A classic beloved Western from 1939, the watershed year of great cinema, almost didn't happen. At the same time, everyone thought the Western was dead, except John Ford. He was right. The other film features one of the greatest acting legends of Hollywood in his last role in 1981 as a tyrannical turn-of-the-century police commissioner. He starred in his first film in 1931 in a classic gangster film. Any ideas? And while not a commissioner, my producer extraordinaire and wingman, actor and cinephile John Schwab, polices this show with the je ne sais quoi. So let's go to the movies. So we have two great movies today, and we are going to start with the 1981 film first, which was based on a massively, hugely famous novel, and it has a great title. It's called Ragtime.
Why is she tied up on a rope? Why is she tied up? Why do you have her tied up?
I have to be sure she will be not kidnapped.
One of Randy Newman's first really gorgeous film scores.
Yeah, and that's Milos Forman, isn't it? He's
Milos. Oh my gosh. I met him once. I just was like, oh, can I just sit and watch you work? You know, it's like, it's just amazing.
I know the reason why. Can I tell you why this is crazy? The reason why I know this film, and it's been a long time, is because James Cagney had a house in 29 Palms, and I was fascinated with James Cagney for just a couple of years there, where I was really getting into film and wanting to. But he had this little house on the hill in 29 Palms, so this movie came to me, you know, about 9 years after it was out.
Right. Well, Cagney. I mean, I will do a Cagney triptych at some point because I just love him. Yeah, I love him. So this was based on the best-selling novel Ragtime by E.L. Doctorow, which I remember devouring when it came out. Because when I was a kid, I was such a history nut as a kid that I was reading all this historical stuff that nobody else my age, you know, 81, what were people reading? I don't know.
Mad Magazine.
Mad Magazine. Yeah, Mad Magazine. I was going to say in the comic books.
That's it.
No, comic books, Mad Magazine, and what, Everything You Needed to Know About Sex, or what was the other? What was the other big sex book?
All the Dr. Spock stuff, you know.
Yeah, right, and you know, yeah, right. And I'm reading E.L. Doctorow, whatever. But the movie was a big Oscar nominated film, and including a very young Elizabeth McGovern.
Yes, absolutely.
Who's now over there on your part of the world.
She is. She's over here.
Married to the lovely Simon Curtis.
That's right.
Who,
this film is like a literal roster of who's who. I mean,
yes,
it is insane.
It is insane. So let me tell you a little bit about all that insane stuff. It's a 155-minute movie, and it spans 13 years from 1900 to 1913, as does the book. And it is looking at the window of America just before the teens going into the roaring 20s. And it's all those things that are going to change. It's like a harbinger. You know, it really is a harbinger of the modernity of America. So it was the wonderful Milos Forman, who also did Cuckoo's Nest and just a legion of great movies.
Amadeus, is one of...
Well, that's I've probably watched that I've watched Amadeus about 15 times.
Yeah. I mean,
It's a great film. Yeah. And we will also be doing that film down. The novel was actually 1975, but I don't think I read it then. I couldn't have, but I definitely read it when the movie was coming out because I wanted to know the movie plot before I saw the movie.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I guess I was already thinking about being a screenwriter, but I didn't know
are you one of those people as well? Like if I know if there's a book that I haven't read and there's a movie coming out of it, I'll read the book first.
Yes.
Always.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I was a big Jimmy Cagney fan already, and I knew he was in the movie, and I'm like, oh, I have to read this book. So just to clarify, James Cagney is in the movie as Rhinelander Waldo, who is a horrible, horrible human being. We're talking about racism, and that was
exactly
another reason. I think this movie came up for me when I was doing the list, and I'd been thinking about 48 Hours. It's kind of the antithesis of 48 Hours. It's looking at America when it was incredibly racist, and we had the Civil War, and yet the hatred and misunderstanding and cruelty was just rife in America. And Brad Dourif is younger brother. And I would encourage people to read the book. It's a great read. It's really something. Moses Gunn played Booker T. Washington. Yes, Elizabeth McGovern, Evelyn Nesbit, which I'll go into a wee bit because it kind of ties in with the stuff I've been writing recently. Kenneth McMillan was Willie Conklin, and Howard E. Rollins Jr. Was just gorgeous as the musician.
Yes.
Now it had 8 Oscar nominations. Howard E. Rollins, supporting actor. Elizabeth McGovern, supporting actress. Writing, the Michael Weller, the wonderful playwright.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
And cinematography, Miroslav Odricek, and art direction, set direction, Grace Mark, and again, Patricia von Brandenstein, who seems to art direct everything great, and brilliant. It was best costume design, Anna Hill Johnston, and best music, Randy Newman. I love the score for this movie. It's so gorgeous, and I so pray that I live to see one of my things made and him scoring it.
Well, he's I'd love that to happen. I mean, this is one of his definitive scores. Other than, and it's the one that everyone should go listen to. I mean, if you know him from Toy Story or something, go listen to the Ragtime score because it's just off the charts. It puts you right there.
Short People, his album. I mean, listen to his albums. I mean, oh my gosh. But his scores are amazing, and we've already done his uncle Alfred Newman on last couple of podcasts, and the Newman Dynasty. I will be doing a podcast just on as well.
Honestly, like the Barrymores, aren't they? They're like the Barrymores, the music.
Yes, the Barrymores of music, absolutely. So we just so you had Milo. She was coming off of Cuckoo's Nest and Hair, and then in Amadeus, he did. Can you believe it was 84 when he did Amadeus? I know, it's just unbelievable.
He never looked old. Milos Forman had some kind of pickling thing.
He just was this amazing. He was connected to USC out here and NYU, but at USC, his friend Frank Danielle was out here. They were all in the Czech film industry together. And so that's how I met him.
Yeah.
It was many, many years ago.
Amazing.
But Michael Weller, the playwright of Moon Children, and the book was it's just a beautiful. And Doctorow, I think, was a first generation American, and he had Russian parents in the Bronx, and it really. And that's what inspired him to want to do this. And he was a really interesting guy, Doctorow. He was a book editor, And he worked, get this is hysterical. He worked with Ian Fleming of the Bond books,
Oh, yeah.
right? And Ayn Rand, that crazy, I know.
Atlas Shrugged. Everybody
Atlas
knows
Shrugged
that.
lady,
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh my God. But it's just a series of meetings that never took place in this book, and other things he did take from history, like when Freud and Jung met, went to America and went to Coney Island. So, I mean, it's just a really crazy, wonderful book. It's so inventive. And they even made it a musical. You know, it was a musical on Broadway. And so and it's funny, there are a few books that were made into films that of his that were not nearly as famous. Welcome to Hard Times, Daniel in 83, Billy Bathgate in 91, Wakefield in 2016 with Bryan Cranston. But nothing has been as incredible as Ragtime.
I am Rylander Waldo. I am Commissioner of Police. I'm going to walk toward you. I am not armed. I want to talk to you. Can you hear me? I want to talk to you inside the library. You let me come in. Please open the door as I approach. I am not armed, as you can see.
So I've told you about the cast. So here's who was originally supposed to play Jimmy Cagney's role.
Uh-huh.
Jack Nicholson. Jack Nicholson was supposed to play the police commissioner. And he had to drop. I know. And he had to drop. I know. Can you imagine? And he had to drop out. And Cagney replaced him. We also had the wonderful Mandy Patinkin in a very early film role as the immigrant father.
Yep.
Robert Joy, the character actor, was wonderful. And I had forgotten Samuel Jackson has
this is what I'm saying. Yeah,
Samuel Jackson.
And look, and Debbie Allen is in it.
Debbie Allen
and
Moses
Mary
Gunn.
Steenburgen.
Jeff
and
Daniels was a young cop in this. Jeff Daniels. Fran Drescher.
Oh my God.
Fran Drescher had a little role. And Norman Mailer played the sexual predator architect Sanford White. Yeah. Isn't that incredible? And so Jimmy Cagney, I have a favorite scene of mine of Jimmy Cagney's. And I remember seeing it as a child and going, oh my God. It was when he squishes the grapefruit in the face of his wife at the breakfast table.
That's right.
And I don't know if it was Public Enemy or White Heat.
I think
White Heat?
it was White Heat.
White Heat. I think it was White Heat. I think it was William Wellman. I think it was White Heat. Or no, I take it back. Public Enemy. It was Public. Was that it? Public Enemy. That was it. And that was just an impromptu moment. But that grapefruit, I mean, that is something else. Right?
It is white. Yeah, it was white. I thought White Heat.
Check it because I have Public Enemy down here. So I'm not sure.
I'm gonna have a look. I think.
So I will add a couple of other little bits while you're looking at that. So he came out. He had been retired for 20 years. He retired at the age of 61. So he came out of retirement to play the role, and his best friend of his life and in his career, Jimmy Cagney and Pat O'Brien, they were a dynamic duo. And they did 9 films together, including Ragtime. And I think one of my favorites of theirs was definitely Angels with Dirty Faces.
Yeah. Right? Yeah.
And it would be the last time that they would work together. They first worked together. It's so much fun. 1934. And Here Comes the Navy. Now get this. God. This is a movie that was nominated for Best Picture. I'd never heard of it.
Here Comes the Navy. Honestly, Here Comes the Navy sounds like an educational film in The Simpsons.
I know.
That's something that
it's
Troy
hilarious.
McClure would say. Hi, I'm actor Troy McClure. You may remember me from such educational films as Look, Here Comes the Navy.
Here comes the Navy. And here comes the fleet, followed by There Goes the Army, and Where Were the Marines? So their big film together was Angels with Dirty Faces in 1938. And that was working with, I think it was also that was Michael Curtiz. And just these great films, great film actors. They were just a dynamic duo, and they had a string of box office hits through the 30s and 40s, including that famous Devil Dogs of the Air. Which I love, right? Ceiling Zero and Torrid Zone.
Oh,
but these were huge hits at the movies.
Well, it's because they were all war films. They were all they were showing.
And there were guys being guys. And it was a time when this was like a very new thing to be able to see this. And it was just really, really wonderful. And Foreman himself recruited Jimmy Cagney. And he'd met him years before at someone's home in Connecticut, because Cagney lived, his full-time residence was Connecticut. And he just got in touch and offered him the role. And he even said, look, you can play any role you want in the movie. I just want to direct you. You can even play Evelyn Nesbit. Which, of course, is the Elizabeth McGovern role.
I know.
Evelyn Nesbit's supposed to be 18, so that would have been a stretch.
Well,
I'm sure Cagney would have done his best.
Babyface James.
Yeah, that's right. And then Jimmy Cagney said, look, you've got my friend Pat O'Brien. You have to hire my friend Donald O'Connor as well, because he'd been having some personal and financial problems, and Cagney wanted to help him. And it changed his life.
Oh, wow.
Donald O'Connor. It just really was like that hand up that he really needed. And now I will tell you who else was trying to go in for the role of Coalhouse Walker, which was the role that Howard Rollins got. And when I tell you who lobbied hard for this role, you will fall off your chair. So if you do fall off your chair, I will wait for you to get up. O.J. Simpson.
What?
Yes.
He lobbied hard to.
Yes.
Oh. What did he kind of show in the dailies from the Towering Inferno or something? He said, I can act.
And Howard E. Rollins, how interestingly, was a former school teacher. And this film was his first role.
God is insane.
Isn't that something? So, Mary Steenburgen is also in the movie. It's just crazy. There's such an amazing cast. But Milos is such a great director that, I can understand why. And he says about Ragtime, and this is a lovely way to go out on the movie. It's one of the only two films I've made that wasn't exactly the way I wanted it. When I showed the producer, Dina De Laurentiis, my cut, it was 2 hours and 40 minutes long. He said 20 minutes has to come out. And he wanted me to cut the sequences between Emma Goldman, the Radical, which I didn't want to do because they were the only scenes where I hope to get some people laughing, because it's a very serious film. I thought in this long drama, it was important to give the audience relief. Finally, I said to Dino, let's show this to the author of the novel. I thought I was being clever, but I was stupid. E.L. Doctorow sided with Dino. I later learned that day that before the screening, Dino optioned another book by E.L. Doctorow. And so Doctorow sided with his boss. Yeah. So I have forgiven him. So that's a wonderful way. It's another Hollywood lesson in that, you think you've got control. You think you're the boss.
Just when you think.
It's always something else.
There ain't no real damage done. Just scoop the shit off, take your automobile, and get along out of here. What do you say?
I'm not going nowhere until my car is cleaned.
Look, I don't want no trouble, all right? Just do as I say.
You know I'm telling the truth.
Just get in your car.
Why are you letting these men intimidate you?
Nobody's intimidating me, mister. You just don't know what you're getting into, and I'm trying to keep your nose clean. Now, would you be a good boy and just get along?
I want my car cleaned.
Clean it then, damn you. Clean it and go.
I want the man who did it to clean it.
So we go from this wonderful recreation of that era to another film that recreates another era back in the 1800s. So from 1880. So we go from the teens
reversing back in time.
Reversing back to the 19th century to one of the top Westerns on the AFI list, which was number 9. It's 1939. Any guesses, Mr. Schwab?
I am going to guess How the West Was Won.
Well, it's a John Ford Western.
It's a John I know.
Ford, and it is called Stagecoach.
Oh, you know what? See, now here we go. This is something it's a film that I don't think I've ever seen. I'm pretty sure I haven't seen it.
Oh, John, it is so much fun. It is so much fun.
This is one where you're going to have to teach me. Normally, I've seen the films, so and I don't know what you're doing. So
that's
when we do these
which is the fun. It's fun.
This is going to be new to me. So listen, I've heard about Stagecoach. Of course, I have, but it's new to me.
This is something to totally watch with the family. You guys, you know what? You guys would all love this. You know, right. And if Sam and Jack haven't seen it, Ted hasn't seen it, you guys have to. Definitely. It is so much fun. This was his first talking Western. This was Ford's first talking Western in 1939. Right. Westerns were out of favor. Everyone said the Western was over, that it was dead, that it couldn't survive the talkies.
Yeah.
And there was a short story in Collier's magazine, which has been defunct for many, many decades now, called The Last Stage to Lordsburg. It was a short story by a writer named Ernest Haycox. And the rights were bought by John Ford. As soon as he read the article, he optioned it.
Oh, right. Okay.
And his notes on it were Apaches are on the warpath into the Civil War, territories away from the temperance movement and right-winged religious fanatics. So the West was where you could go to get away from that kind of stuff. And the Ringo Kid, that is eventually played by John Wayne, has learned that his father and brother have been murdered, and he wants to right their deaths and get justice. And Dallas, the lovely saloon singer, played by Claire Trevor, and Doc, the drunk, are chased out of town because this town is now an intolerant temperance town, and it's like, get the heck out of here.
Doc, can they make any town when I don't want to go? Do I have to
Now,
go?
Dallas, don't you go making no fuss.
Do I have to go, doctors, because they say so?
Now, Dallas, I've got my orders. Don't blame these ladies. It ain't them.
It is them. Doc, haven't I any right to live? What have I done?
We're the victims of a foul disease called social prejudice, my child. These dear ladies of the Law and Order League are scouring out the dregs of the town. Come on. They are proud, glorified dregs like me.
You get going, Doc. You're drunk.
Two of the kind. Just two of the kind.
Take my arm, Madame la Comtesse. The tumbril awaits. For the guillotine.
Oh, wait till I get my bench, girls. I'll join you.
So they are all going to go to the Mexican border and try and get, into the Arizona territory and to freedom. So they board this little stagecoach, and it's a Dallas, Doc, the pregnant Lucy Mallory, and she's going to join her cavalry husband and a whiskey salesman. So it's a fun group.
Yeah.
And Doc, who is a major alcoholic. Yeah.
It's like, Lord of the Rings, just.
Yes, exactly. But in a stagecoach with more clothing, more petticoats.
Exactly.
And the wonderful Andy Devine plays, and these are all great character actors. And I really encourage anyone, if you haven't seen this, I don't care if you're a tweener, a teener, a millennial, a disgruntled, me generation, baby boomer generation. It doesn't matter. This is such a fun movie. It is so much fun. It's clever. It's witty. And you know who the movie star was? You know who got top billing?
Well, I would, if you said John Wayne, I would imagine John Wayne did.
John Wayne was so out of favor at this point. He was so
really?
dead in the water. The movie star was Claire Trevor.
No.
Yep, she was the above the line billing.
I mean,
Yes.
yes, that's great, but like I would imagine, so if John Wayne was out of favor,
Yeah.
did he just like piss everybody off or something?
But it just they were like, yeah, he's okay. He
Wow.
just had it, and this movie changed it. This made him John Wayne.
Oh, got you.
Yeah. So this was it. This was the movie that made John Wayne.
Because
Yes.
I mean, okay, got you.
And it was the first time that Ford shot the Monument Valley for his westerns.
There you go.
Which he did for many decades after.
Yeah.
So the wonderful Thomas Mitchell is Doc, and Thomas Mitchell is in It's a Wonderful Life. He's Uncle Willie, I think. Remember the wonderful uncle?
Yeah.
So all these actors, you've seen them in a gajillion other movies, and Thomas Mitchell won the Oscar for Doc. And the best scoring, Richard Hageman and Harleen and John Leopold and Leo Shunkin, they took a lot of they scored, but they also had a lot of period music that they put together. So it's a really great soundtrack and score. But it was a Best Picture nominee, Best Director for John Ford, cinematography, Burt Glennon, art direction, and film editing was as well, and a female film editor. And in those days, you still had women doing a lot of the big jobs, direction, editing, and everything. So John Ford was amazing. Just amazing. And he was the first AFI Lifetime Achievement winner in 1973, and it was just before he died. And
I was about to say that was very close to his death, because I know that he died in the early 70s.
Yes.
So
Yes, and it was President Nixon actually was still president before he was forced to resign.
Maybe that did it to him. Maybe that was it.
Introduced him the Presidential Medal of Honor at the same time. Nice. So he really, it was a really wonderful, honor. But he's done so many great movies.
My God.
Well, we will have to do a John Ford episode.
We'll have to do a bit. It will have to be so quick because it is. I remember, like, the reason I say how the West is won, because I remember that film. It's indelible. Like, again, that was a who's who. In that
of all the directors,
all the directors. But exactly. But the man who shot Liberty Valance and the Alamo,
Grapes of Wrath.
like Grapes of Wrath.
How green, and that was the same year. It was the same year. All right. And this is crazy. Grapes of Wrath. How green was my valley?
Wait, the Grapes of Wrath is the same year as Stagecoach?
Yeah, I think it's 39. Yeah, or is he 39 or 40? We have to check. I know. Well, 39 was one of those years, but we can check that, and I will have it on the website.
Just the Grapes of Wrath is
and I will definitely have that on the website.
Time favorites.
Yeah. Mr. Lincoln. I think actually it might be that Young Mr. Lincoln and Stagecoach are the same year. I think that's it. And Grapes of Wrath is right around this time, but it might be next. It might be 38 or 40. Drums Along the Mohawk. She Wore a Yellow Ribbon. Fort Apache, Rio Grande. Quiet Man. The Searchers, Red River. I mean, it goes on.
Rio Grande. It's so good. The Searchers. Oh my God.
And Liberty Valance.
Liberty Valance.
Wow.
I mean, the use of shadows, like he masterfully. That last scene where it gets the name of the title, like it is just so much is said without a single piece of dialogue spoken.
Great director. Great director. And he's also one of my heroes because he stood up against McCarthyism, and he really shut down Cecil B. DeMille, who was a great director, but a racist and an anti-Semite as well. I mean, he was a dreadful human. And he stood up to him and publicly called him out on I forget where it was, but it was filmed. He said, "My name's John Ford. I make Westerns. I don't think there's anyone in this room who knows more about what the American public wants than Cecil B. DeMille. And he certainly knows how to give it to them. But I don't like UCB. I don't like what you stand for. And I don't like what you've been saying here tonight."
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
Wow.
We need people to do that more. We need a John Ford now.
Yeah. Come on, John.
Come on, John. Come back from the grave, please. We're begging. So as I was saying, the music, and it really is worth listening to the music as you're watching the film, because they did weave a great American West folk song soundtrack for the film, and it really is just gorgeous.
Right.
And you as a musician and the boys, you guys will really love just the music, and there might even be something that you all might want to re-record and do a cover on.
Yes.
Yeah. So the script came from Dudley Nichols, who was one of my screenwriting heroes when I was young. I mean, look, I'm a geek. What can I say? I'm sorry. I was like Bringing Up Baby, Gunga Din, Mr. Lucky, For Whom the Bell Tolls, Hurricane, Joan Crawford. You know, yeah. And these are movies. Again, I promise we will be covering in future podcasts. I will be 150 by the time I kind of narrow it on some of the movies. But as I said, it was mostly shot in Monument Valley. And there were the RKO and Iverson ranches out in the valley. And people don't know, but all of the studios had ranches out in the valley for all their Westerns. And then all the city stuff, all the cityscapes, all the sound stages were all, Century City and Westwood were all part of the Fox lot. All of the golf courses out in West LA were part of Fox, and Warner Brothers owned all the hills in Toluca Lake and the lake. Universal owned, Spartacus was shot in the Hollywood Hills,
That's crazy.
So, yeah. So this is just a little bit of fun stuff for all of you who like movies and want to kind of look those things up. And we will have things about this on the website as well.
Nice.
So no one wanted this movie. They thought Westerns were over, and no one wanted John Wayne. And they said, well, if you can get me Gary Cooper and Marlena Dietrich.
Right.
And by this time, how many movies? It's 1939. John Wayne started in the late teens, so in early 20s. How many movies do you think he'd done in like a decade?
Who, John Wayne?
John Wayne.
In a decade, I'd say 2 a year, maybe 20.
79.
You're shitting me.
You're the notorious Ringo Kid.
My friends just call me Ringo. Nickname I had as a kid. Right name's Henry.
So Ford worked with him. He really liked him. He just felt like he was the Ringo Kid. And he said, hey, would you read the script for me and tell me who you think should play the role? And John Wayne, who really didn't have any idea that Ford really wanted him, genuinely was humble enough and said, oh, well, you should really get my buddy Lloyd Nolan.
Right.
Isn't that funny? And he'd already cast Claire Trevor. And he told Lloyd Nolan, and Lloyd Nolan was like, oh, I don't know. It's not really my thing. And then Ford said, no, actually, you're going to do it. And so that's how John Wayne got the role.
Wow.
Ward Bond was supposed to be the wagon master, but Andy Devine, now get this. Okay, you're like, what? Andy Devine knew how to drive a 6-up horse stagecoach.
Why?
I mean, but that shows you how many Westerns must have been done and that he'd learned it.
He had the training. But
he had the training.
It
would be like if you had to drive a Segway now in a movie.
Exactly. Can you do a Segway? Yes, not near a cliff. But he had a great face, Andy Devine, right? I'm sure he played. Yeah. He was a Western man.
He was in Westerns. He was in everything. And he had that voice, that great squeaky voice. You really have to, everyone has to watch this movie. I'm just saying, if you're listening, you have to watch it. And,
you have to watch.
And I mean, like, but he knew how to drive a 6-horse stagecoach. I know. So
that's not something that you put on your acting resume unless you definitely know how to do it. It's not like riding a horse.
So here, John Ford, yes. In 1939, so at 38, 39, he directed Stagecoach, Young Mr. Lincoln, and Drums Along the Mohawk.
Wow.
In 1 year.
How?
They did it while they shot. They went out like Walter said. They hired you. You did your 4 weeks, your 5 weeks, your 3 weeks, and you shot your movie.
Wow.
He just went and shot it. He had 60 silent movies, but most of them are lost. And there is one, and I have not seen this. There is a reel of a 1922 melodrama called The Village Blacksmith that I'm sure AFI has, and it probably you can maybe even see it on their website. It was the first of many Westerns that Ford shot in Monument Valley. It's when he discovered the American Southwest. It's on the Arizona-Utah border for anyone who wants to know. So it was Stagecoach, and then everything else he did after that. I mean, it was the movies we were just saying. But they shot again at the Arvison Movie Ranch in Chatsworth and the Encino Movie Ranch, and they just and there are some geographic incongruities. So if you're really looking at it, you'll say, "Wait a minute, did that mountain just move?" But but it's been lauded as one of the most influential movies ever made. And in fact, there is a filmmaker who made the most awarded and exciting movies in 1940 who watched Stagecoach over and over and over and over again. And I'm going to let you guess if you think you know who that was. Who made a 1940s movie that was a huge monster hit. Number one movie ever.
Citizen Kane.
Yeah. Orson Welles watched Stagecoach over 40 times because he said it was the perfect movie. He just felt that it was a textbook perfect film on how to make a movie. Wow. And clearly he was a good student because it just worked for Citizen Kane, right? I mean,
yeah. Well, I tell you what, Orson Welles was a consummate storyteller. He could spin a yarn, and that's what most of these Westerns, they're just massive yarns. They're great.
Yes.
Just adventures. And that's what Citizen Kane is, you know.
Well, yes. And it's a Western in a drawing room, actually, when you think about it, with the families and the femme fatale and the good wife that stands by the man, but it's a wonderful, I mean, I love Citizen Kane. John Wayne had one positive print of Stagecoach. It had never been through a projector gate.
Oh, wow.
And he gave it to UCLA to fully restore the film and use it. And they did finally totally restore the film in 1996. And that's the print you can see now. And when you're like on American Movie Classics or and I'm sure you can find it. And we will have where to find films on the website as well.
Oh, good.
But just a little bit on John Wayne, because he did become an icon. And he was born in 1907 in Iowa. Now, he has a funny name. Do you know what his first name really was?
Ooh, John Wayne.
Yes.
Wasn't it a girl's name? Like what we did?
It was, yes.
It's like Evelyn or something.
Close. Marion, that's
the one.
Marion, Robert Morrison.
Yes.
And he was at USC, and they used to call him the Airedale Terrier and Duke at USC because he was in football.
Yeah.
And he was hired as a prop boy and an extra by John Ford from like his football, because in that day, LA was so small, everyone went to the USC games and everyone saw stuff. And he worked on the Tom Mix silent movies with John Ford. So they were really good friends. And he became friends with, this is like, so I had to add this in here. John Wayne, when he was a young extra, hanging around John Ford sets and watching Tom Mix, became buddies with Wyatt Earp.
Of course he did.
I mean, come on. And Wyatt Earp taught it, gave him his walk and his talk.
Oh, wow.
And Earp happened to be a good friend and was an advisor and consultant to Tom Mix, who was the great Western star of the Silence. So, and Raoul Walsh, who was another great film director who we will also be talking about in later episodes, gave John Wayne his name. And I don't know the story behind that, but I will find it for another time. Yeah. And Ford was asked whether his attitude changed very much about Westerns, and his Westerns, which I mentioned some, but the others were Iron Horse and which I had forgotten to mention. But then we also mentioned Darling Clementine and Liberty Valance. But My Darling Clementine is gorgeous. Have you seen that?
No.
Okay, well, you guys got to do a John Ford.
I think we're gonna have to do John Ford weekend or something.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Netflix. We're gonna watch John Ford. And he said no. He said I think a Western is still the same as ever, and he always liked to, a little teasingly, I never go to see a Western, and I'd never think of reading a Western novel or story. I only make them to get away from Hollywood.
Very
and he goes, it's a lot of fun out there on location. I'm in good company of cowboys and stuntmen and people I love. And I'm just a hard-nosed working director. Nice. And I think I have a couple lovely quotes we can go out on. Is he liked to always say about Liberty Valance. Yes. That's one of my films where the man didn't kiss his horse and ride off into the sunset at the end. And then we'll end on John Wayne's wonderful quote from the film is, there are some things a man can't run away from.
Oh, so good.
Well, they're saved from the blessings of civilization.
Yeah. Doc, I'll buy you a drink.
Just one.
Thank you for coming along with us today and walking the harsh streets of 1900s New York City with Mandy Patinkin and James Cagney before riding shotgun with us on a stagecoach with John Wayne into the wild, wild West. And join us here next time when we cross hundreds of years between uptown girls and downtown boys, Renaissance style and sock hop style. One a tragedy, one less so. Yet both have amazing music. Intrigued? And we're not talking Shakespeare. And maybe you'll dream the answer. The man who said it was very dreamy. I'm Janet Doolin-Jones. Cinema Sounds and Secrets is a production of CSS Sounds. Original music by the composer and pianist Merv DePayer. Sumptuous sound editing by Sam Boulier. Right-hand help from the super efficient Owen Hassler, and deepest gratitude to the excellent John Schwab for his production support, love of film, and good humor. And as always, with special thanks to Pendleton.
Cinema Sounds and Secrets will be back with more movie lore before you can say
The stuff that dreams are made of.
Do you know what they're made of? And who said that? And it wasn't Shakespeare. I'm Janet Doolin-Jones. You can find out much more on our website on the films in today's podcast, along with recommendations on where to find films, on great books on cinema, special interviews with filmmakers, and more. And please send me your questions and thoughts at cinemasoundsandsecrets.com.